Hey creators, Aimon here, and this is where I explore my creative philosophies through video. A huge problem that I see with video creators doing corporate work is actually getting not only a usable, but an amazing performance out of their corporate clients, one that will actually help them sell the product or service that they're making a video about. Often the people that you're putting in front of the camera have never been in front of a camera before. They've never done any acting courses or anything like that. So they need a lot of guidance to actually, get a great performance out of them. And pretty much every client I sit down with, they're like, oh, I'm nervous. I've never really done this before. I'm not really good at being in front of camera. And I'm like, I totally understand, because I used to be bad at being in front of camera as well. So yeah, they can struggle a lot. And so I decided to make this video to give you 5 awesome tips for how to actually manage your clients and get a great performance out of them so that your video work is going to work wonders and actually get results for them. Because yeah, I just see so many people giving bad direction on set, no names mentioned, but anyway, let's get into it. All right, so let's say you booked in the gig, whether it's for your own business or for a business that you're working with, everything's set up, the client's paid for it, and you rock up to set. Now what do you do? So tip number 1 is managing expectations. Now, if you only take one thing away from this video, let it be this one, because it's so important. Managing expectations is everything. So for example, when I rock up to a set, say I'm going to be doing an interview and then a couple of B-roll bits after that, I'll literally tell my client, hey guys, good to see you, have a bit of a chit chat or whatever. And it's like, okay, first things first, what I'm going to do is set up my tripod and camera, make the set look great. Then we're going to sit down, do a bit of an interview. It'll probably be 10-15 minutes. I'll be asking you a couple of questions. It'll be a bit of fun, and then we can jump up and do some B-roll. How does that sound? So every step of the way, your client knows exactly what's happening. And people easily overlook this because, they think it's like, oh, well, I've done this 100 times, and so they should know what's happening, But really, a lot of people, they have never actually done this experience before. And even if they have, it's probably been with a different company, so it's been a different experience. So they need you to actually guide them through everything that's happening. And then they know what's happening for the next 5-10 minutes, and you just continue to manage those expectations. So it might seem like I'm overdoing it, but trust me, this really works. Basically from there, let's say I've already set up my tripod and my camera and everything's ready to go, and then I'm micing them up, then I'll re-manage their expectations again. So it's like, okay guys, now we're just gonna jump in and do an interview. It's gonna be a bit of fun. Let's just pretend the camera's not even there. It's just me and you having a chat. And I'll ask you a couple of different questions to get comfortable. Then we'll dive into the interview and we'll be out of here in 10-15 minutes. How's that sound? And you're always just saying, how does that sound? So they say, yep, that sounds great. They know exactly what's happening, so they can just chill and think about what they're making for dinner that night or whatever it is, play on their phone, talk to the other clients that are there. They just know exactly what's happening. It makes them way more comfortable. And not only that, it gives you the room to actually do your job, because you don't feel anxious about trying to get things set up and ready to go while they don't know what's happening and they're waiting around. So if you continue to manage your expectations and say, I'm just going to do this, feel free to relax, make yourself a coffee or whatever, and I'll be with you in 5 minutes, And to zoom out a bit, you can use this in everyday life and it really helps you with everything. But specifically on a film set, managing your clients, this is a big one. So step number 2, and this is an obvious one, is make them feel comfortable. So when you rock up on set, you have a bit of small talk with them, ask them about what's been happening in their business, in their day, what they're doing on the weekend. And you can be doing this all while you're setting up and, doing your actual job. But it's just kind of keeping things light, making a couple of jokes, maybe taking a couple of photos of them to kind of get your camera ready or whatever. There's plenty of ways to do this. And you have to figure out what works best for you and what works best for your clients. But if you're in the video and film industry, this is a skill that you have to hone. And I've realized this through many years of practice. And there's some days where I wake up and I just don't really feel like being extroverted and talking to clients and blah, blah. I just want to get in and do my job. But unfortunately, that's not what this industry is about. It's primarily a communication industry, and you happen to use a camera as well. That's kind of how I frame it to my clients, and that's a little bonus tip for you that helps me, get gigs and look great to my clients. But not only that, it's the truth. You really have to be good at managing people and having a chat with people, and you don't have to be so over the top and extroverted. Okay, if you're an introvert, that's totally fine. But you just have to, figure out, as I said, what works for you. Have a bit of small talk so your client actually likes you, and it's going to get you more gigs as well. So that's tip number 2. So tip number 3 is get them to repeat your questions in the answers. for an interview. So what does that look like? Well, basically when I sit down and everything's set up, I'm ready to do the interview, I'll say, okay, look, there's only one rule. And that rule is I need you to repeat my question in your answer. And the example that I use every time is, okay, so if I, for example, said, what did you have for breakfast this morning? You might say, not you, the client, instead of saying toast, you might say, for breakfast this morning, I had toast, okay? And so this is really important because it keeps me out of the film, because, you know, this is about you and not me. And it's so important that, you know, if we miss it, and that's totally okay. Sometimes people miss it. Sometimes people are great at it. I'll just pop my hand up and say, hey, sorry, you missed that there. And we'll just jump in and redo that question. Okay, so now I'm not talking to the client, I'm talking to you again. That's exactly the example I give, as lame as it is, because it is dead set so important. And, you know, I'll follow through on that because some people are great at it and other people aren't great at it. You know, because the last thing that you want is to get into post-production and have a fantastic answer to a question, but have no context for it, okay? You know, imagine the client and they're like, yes, I love it. And you're like, yeah, that's a great take, but it doesn't say anything about their business or what it is that they're actually talking about, you know? And it's just unusable unless you put a question on the screen and then it all of a sudden looks lame and unprofessional. So this is paramount to getting not only a good performance, builds a bit of rapport, shows that you're an expert, and also make sure that you actually get the right things to use in post-production. So making them answer your questions in their answers is really important. So step number 4, and this one takes a lot of practice, but it's literally just asking them questions and having a conversation. So the way I set it up, whether it's an interview with a camera on a tripod or I'm using a gimbal or whatever, I try and make it as if the camera and the lights and nothing is not even there. And I might even say that to them. It's like, okay, cool. So there's no camera here, there's no lights here. It's just me and you, we're at the pub, we're having a bit of a chat. How does that sound, you know? And so, you know, obviously they're not looking down the barrel of the camera, they're looking a little bit to the left at you, and you really want to grab their attention so they're not focused on the camera. You need to get it so they forget that they're actually on a set and they are just having a conversation with you. So you need to be really engaged and really listening to what they're saying, and you have to riff off what they're saying as if you are in a normal conversation, even if it's not actually usable for the content that you're going for. And chances are, a lot of the time, it ends up being usable for an extra bit of micro content or for something else down the line, you know? And so this is actually the biggest thing, and this is the thing that will get you booked more often than anybody else, is if people can feel comfortable in front of the camera with you. Even if they have been on camera a bunch of times, still people, it's just not really something people vibe with doing. You know, talking to a camera and it's captured forever and they might hate how they look, and there's so many variables, right? But yeah, you know, if you can really just engage them in a conversation and they feel like you're just their friend having a chat to them, that's the way to do it. So I might even kick off the interview with something a little light, not even tell them that I'm recording, okay? Just ask them about their weekend or something along those lines, and then dive into the questions in the interview. And knowing what questions to ask to actually get a particular result is an entirely different video, so I won't dive into that here. If you want more on that topic, then let me know in the comments, because I can make more videos on this in the future for you if you find this valuable. But yeah, it's definitely a whole nother topic in itself. But the main thing is, you know, you want to get them to feel comfortable and, you know, as if the camera's not even there. So that's tip number 4. So tip number 5 is dig. Now this kind of builds off the last tip, but basically when you're in the interview or when you're asking them a question, again, whether it's on a gimbal or a tripod or whatever situation, okay, you need to actually dig on whatever you see lights them up, whatever makes them passionate, you know? And again, it might not be relevant to the video and it might make the interview process a little bit longer, but if it makes sure that you actually get the gold, it's gonna increase the value of your video and, you know, obviously get more results for them. So what does digging look like? Well, you know, say you've asked about why they started their business or whatever, and they're saying, you know, yeah, when I was 10, like that's when I really got into plumbing or whatever it is. And, you know, you see them actually get really passionate about that. Instead of moving on to the next question, you have to leave some room to actually riff and go with the flow. And as soon as you see that, you need to latch onto that and dig into that. You'd be like, oh, that's awesome. Tell me more about that. You know, I want to know, like, what did it feel like when you did that for the first time? And why did that spark passion in you, you know? And that will not only, you know, actually get a great performance out of them, but it will get them in a more passionate kind of flow for the rest of the interview. Because once they've got to that state and then you move on to other questions, they're going to be, already more energetic and keen to continue. So it's really important to dig whenever you see gold, basically. That's what you're doing. You're digging for gold. And, sometimes interviews that I plan, they go completely the opposite direction to how I thought they'd go, even though I have a framework of questions and a bit of a structure with how I'm going with the interview. They just go completely different and the interview ends up being amazing content, right? So you have to allow room to kind of go with the flow and really dig for the gold that's actually going to get them results. So they're my 5 tips for getting a fantastic performance out of your corporate clients. I hope that's helped because it's taken me a very long time to actually hone these skills myself. So yeah, I really hope that's actually helped you. Hope you've gotten some value out of it. If you have, let me know in the comments below. But if you have any other tips that are awesome that I maybe missed here, again, let me know in the comments below. If you want some more videos about this topic, again, just let me know because I've done hundreds of these interviews and I know exactly what works and I have a bunch of different frameworks to kind of get a fantastic performance out of them. And I guarantee you the reason I get booked and the reason I get more clients is because of my people skills and my ability to get a good performance out of somebody on camera. It's not necessarily my camera skills, okay? I'm a pretty good cinematographer, you might say. I'm pretty good with using the camera, but I guarantee you there's other people in my industry that are much better at using a camera than me, but much worse at actually interacting with people and getting a good performance out of people. But I get gigs over them because I know how to deal with people and communicate properly. So again, I hope you've gotten some value out of that. Thank you very much for watching. Keep creating, and I will see you in the next video.